Alright, y'all. So I want to give you my quick initial thoughts on Smallville season one. I recently just watched this, and I'm just making this video to kind of give you my quick initial non-scripted thoughts on this TV series. So, kind of going into this TV series, just give you a little background. I heard of Smallville growing up. I mean, I'm a pretty big Superman fan, and I heard of the name Smallville. I heard a little bit about the TV series. I remember specifically seeing like the image of Tom Welling put up as the scarecrow with the S painted on his chest, and I remember as a kid just being put off by that image just because it looks so alien compared to other things Superman related. Like, he doesn't even wear his suit. It's about Clark Kent, like 99% of the time. And it's about his time in Smallville, which is usually kind of like a footnote in Superman's history, especially in the movies. And I was just kind of really confused. And I kind of avoided the series based on those facts, or those opinions, excuse me, for a long time. Until recently, where like I said, I'm more mature and I kind of wanted to give this series a second chance, not judge a book by its cover, right? And I'm really glad to report I was really surprised by the quality of this TV series. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that the series is great. It's like top 10 superhero television because I haven't seen the whole series. I'm going to be reviewing this series and giving you my initial thoughts based on that season and previous season's knowledge. I haven't seen the whole series yet, so this is just my raw initial thoughts. But season one is pretty good. I honestly would recommend it to people. If you like Superman stuff, or even better, if you don't know anything about Superman, you're just completely new to the character and the world, you can easily get into this TV series. I think this series is actually really good at like bringing new people into Superman stuff because it's like so universal in watching this TV series. The tone is kind of like other TV shows from around that time. It's kind of like Vampire Diaries, even though that series came out after Smallville, or Dawson's Creek mixed in with a Superman TV series about Clark's time in Smallville. That's kind of the tone throughout this series, if I had to best describe it to someone. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it honestly handles it very well. I also, watching this TV series, it reminds me a lot of those later CW superhero shows. And you can tell that a lot of the basic formula here for those type of superhero shows was established in Smallville. The whole kind of run-of-the-mill monster of the week, personal drama that kind of runs throughout this series. You see a lot of that in CW's superhero shows. It's kind of funny, this show obviously came out way before any of that stuff. So it's kind of interesting how much inspiration it seemed like this show takes place in other shows. Now for season one. Season one is pretty damn good. To kind of go with the pros first, the main cast themselves, all do a great job. You got Clark Kent, the man himself, which is played by Tom Welling, who I think was like a model and like a slight like actor beforehand. Obviously, when he did this show, he became famous, and he's very good as Clark Kent here. This version of Clark Kent is much more confident in himself, but also he's a teenager. He got all these like incredible abilities that he's trying to hide from everyone, but he's also trying to do the right thing by people. And it's a constant dilemma of him trying to hide his powers from the world, and a whole drama that revolves around that and how that also affects other characters. And I like his personality in general in this show. You know, he's treated like a character who, you know, he's not like a bumbling like version of Clark Kent that we see in most continuities, where they kind of like Superman kind of really plays up the whole Clark Kent persona. In this series, this is just Clark Kent. This is just his life. This is just him. So he plays it straight. He's funny, he's charming, he's intelligent, he's not a bumbling idiot. And I gotta really respect that. You know, they've like adapted like Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent into this series for the whole series. I probably would have gotten really annoyed. So it's really good that this Clark Kent is just played straight, and Tom Welling does a really good job. Other great actors, you also got Michael Rosenberg, who portrays Lex Luthor. And Lex in this TV series surprised me just because they do this angle with Lex where Lex moves to Smallville and then kind of befriends Clark. And this is obviously all before we know, especially if you know Superman stuff, how Lex is like the major enemy of Superman. And I was kind of worried about that creative choice, and I'm going to see how it plays out as the series goes along. where the villain is like very closely tied to the hero in the beginning, but then just something happens and splits them apart. And I'm not really a big fan of that. I've always preferred the version, like it seems like in most versions of Superman, where Superman is like in Metropolis doing his thing and then he meets Lex Luthor there. That just makes a little bit more sense. Him having this close, long history with Lex starting in Smallville seems, to me, it seemed really weird when I was watching this TV series. But as it went along, it grew on me. I liked Lex a lot in this TV show. Mike and Rosenberg, I can already tell, does a really good job as Lex Luthor. There's a reason why I've heard like a lot of good things said about his performance here. He's an absolute standout in this series. You know, Lex here is calculating, sometimes cold, methodical, but also weirdly human in this TV series. He's not just a straightforward bad guy. He's a very complex character. He generally wants to befriend Clark. He doesn't entirely trust Clark, but he wants him as a friend. And I really enjoy that aspect of Lex Luthor in this show. I like how he interacts with other people, and kind of like I said, due to his environment and how he was raised by Lionel Luthor, his father, which we get to see also in this series. He does a great job as well, portraying this very antagonistic, ego-driven, just really just a bad father, right? It really contrasts compared to like Clark's parents, who Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent in this TV series are fantastic. I think Martha is played by the same actress who played Alana Lang, ironically, in Superman 3, which is kind of a weird little thing to point out. But overall, yeah, I just think I really enjoyed Lex Luthor in this TV series. He's an absolute standout. I think Michael Rosenberg does a great performance, and I like a lot of his moments in the TV series. Like I mentioned, I liked Clark's parents. I think Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent, I can't remember the actors' names off the top of my head, but they're really good in this TV series. I really like the ideals they give him. They're always pressuring Clark not to reveal his abilities until he really wants to, and gives him the good ideals that you can really see how Clark became such a good person as Superman thanks to his upbringing, right? And his parents are great in this TV series. The actresses and the actors both give really good performances. Then you also have other major characters. You got Lana Lang here, who kind of betrays the love interest of Clark throughout the show. They have this on and off, like not really relationship, but just more of like a will they, won't they get together kind of thing, and romantic tension that builds throughout the series. And I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite aspects of this show, seeing if they were going to get together or seeing if they're going to break up or what was going to happen with them. And even though it got a little bit tedious at times, I really enjoyed a lot of Lang in this show. She also goes through a lot. She's more of a complex character than initially perceived, right? She kind of starts out as a cheerleader, and then eventually she kind of quits cheerleading and then runs kind of her old theater that was connected to her aunt and her parents, which in this continuity, I like the fact that Clark inadvertently caused a lot of changes in Smallville because his alien ship crashed down with a meteor shower, and that kind of killed Lana's parents. So I guess it's a whole thing with that. But I really enjoyed Lana's character in this show. I liked how she grew as a person, and we'll see how she grows throughout the series. But I thought the actress did a really good performance, right? I think she gave a really great, sincere, and the chemistry between her and Clark is great. Other major characters, you got characters like Chloe and Pete, are kind of Clark's friends. Chloe kind of runs a school newspaper named The Torch. She kind of basically takes the Lois Lane character, because one of the basic plot premises of season 1 is that, like I said, Clark came down with a meteor shower when he was a baby, obviously getting sent from the world called Krypton. And all these meteor fragments throughout the town of Smallville give this weird, spooky, monster of the week vibe where people, for whatever reason, ingest, take, fall in something, or just near kryptonite, right? Because kryptonite rocks kind of get transported with the meteor shower. And Chloe is kind of that character like Lois Lane. She investigates all these things. This weird metal, this rock called kryptonite, and the meteors, they don't call it kryptonite in the show right away, but all these weird, like I said, in the show, kryptonite does a lot of weird things to people, And she, alongside Clark kind of stops these crazy people, and Chloe kind of investigates it. So it's kind of, like I said, a Lois Lane and a Clark Kent dynamic, which we'll eventually see later on down the line when obviously he gets to Metropolis. So, like I said, I liked her character. I thought that she was really good in the TV series. I liked the fact that they gave her more to do near the end of season 1. I also like the fact that she and Clark got together, because the whole will they won't they with Lana, I don't know, I liked it, but it was kind of like, it was like a weird, like, are they going to actually do something with this, or is it just going to be a will they won't they? And I don't know, like I said, Chloe and Clark, I feel like, are a little bit better of a match sometimes, because, like I said, Lois Lane and Clark Kent in our timeline, or in the future, right, are kind of a thing. So it makes more sense. But I liked it. She's a good character in the TV series. She definitely has her moments. And they also have one of Clark's best friends, Pete, who is kind of there throughout the series. They give him a little bit of development. They're saying that, like, he has a grudge against Lex, and he's kind of like a charismatic ladies' man. But he doesn't get much development, which I'll definitely say out of the main cast, he's definitely the weakest. Also, you got Lana's boyfriend, Whitney, who at first is kind of presented as like a stereotypical jock, and then throughout the series loses football, goes down a wrong path, but eventually joins the Marines. I really liked his character because, like I said, gives him more complexity than what was initially perceived, right? Instead of just making it a bland jock character, he was much more than that throughout the series as the series went along, and I really enjoyed his character as well. That's one of the great things about making a TV series and seeing these characters. They grow and change, and you get to see more sides of them. They're just more complex characters. So I think all the character writing stuff was really solid. Now, like I mentioned, the show kind of has a creature of the week kind of vibe. Like I mentioned, meteor fragments are spread throughout Smallville. It's kind of a plot device to basically get all these random people throughout Smallville powers. Now, they can get powers from whatever thing. And that's kind of leading to one of my big issues with this TV series, but I'll get to that later. But I did think some of the people in some of the episodes featuring this creature of the week kind of thing, where these people got powers from kryptonite, was real. Some of them are really good. Like, you got standouts, like there's one where like an old man becomes young again and takes revenge against ancestors of people in Smallville who put him into jail. And I really liked that episode. I liked the murder mystery vibe of it. It was really good. I also liked the fact that in episode 2 they have the guy who played Lloyd in that Dumb and Dumber prequel, which, shout out to that movie. I love that movie. You also have other great episodes, like this guy who like becomes cold and he has to absorb heat from other people. That's also a pretty good episode. There's also one where Amy Adams shows up. Yes, the same one who would later play Lois Lane in Man of Steel. She appears in this TV series, and she kind of portrays a character who's obsessed about losing weight. She gets into contact with, like, I think through flowers or something, or I think the stuff she drinks. She gets in contact with kryptonite. She becomes like some weird, like, mutant thing where she wants to eat fat off people. It's just so weird, but I liked it. I like the body horror aspect of it. I think one of my favorite episodes presenting this premise was actually the one featuring the actor who played Iceman in the old Bryan Singer X-Men movies. They do this thing where Clark, like, through like lightning, switches powers. He loses his powers for an episode, switches powers with this random kid, and kind of presents a scenario like, what if this kid had Superman's powers and what he would do with it. And the contrast between him and Clark is really wide. I really enjoyed that episode because it shows, because the kid had like a bad upbringing. His parents were extremely abusive to him, and he was bullied a lot, and he kind of used his powers to do what he thought as revenge, while Clark, uses his powers as more of a restraint to save people and to hide his abilities. And I really enjoyed the contrast. That was one of my favorite episodes of this entire series. I also enjoyed some of the ongoing storylines they had here. Like I said, I really enjoyed the whole Lana and Clark romance and all the things that come around that. I also like the whole Lex thing of him like investigating like the whole plausible thing with how they met in the TV series, him and Clark. and him kind of investigating these meteor fragments behind everyone's back, and then also kind of reversing that because he doesn't want to mess with Clark Kent's family. And like I said, it shows more of a complex character within Lex. I really enjoyed that ongoing storyline. And overall, I think that was a lot of the pros. I think also the CGI, the camera work's very nice. I think it was directed pretty well. The music's also pretty good. I mean, that iconic theme song and intro, I heard about it even before I watched this TV series, and it's great. I mean, the song choice is amazing. Like, every time I watch an episode of Smallville, I have to play the intro. It's like one of those few intros to a TV series I actually really enjoy listening to over and over again because the song is so good and fits the TV show. Also, like, on a sidetrack on that, the soundtrack in this TV show is fantastic. It's kind of contemporary for that time, like in 2001 and stuff, but it fits the vibe of this TV show. Like, you usually don't hear like a Superman related property. Usually you hear like orchestral, like Donner like soundtracks, like the old movies. Here you hear like more of a contemporary rock styled soundtrack. Like, they're not afraid to put more modern tunes at that time into this show, which I think gives it more of a teenage contemporary vibe to it, which I really enjoyed the soundtrack to this TV series. I also thought the action was really good. The CGI, for what it is not too bad either. There are definitely some bad CGI in this TV series, but there's also some definite good moments of it too. Like, I think Clark's use of some of his powers are really good. Like, the use of his physical strength, of like how he lifts cars or pushes over houses, is really cool. The use of his super speed looks good in the TV series. Just when they get into the more complex CGI moments with like crazier stuff, I think it's when the CGI really shows its age. But overall, it didn't like extremely distract me from this TV series because, I mean, there's like a sense of like you gotta like put that, like you gotta put like a little bit of like disbelief here because this is an old TV show, so I didn't mind that part of it. Now for the cons. Like I mentioned, the creature of the week thing I think was a fine plot narrative and device. I guess it gave an excuse for cool things to happen in Smallville and for Clark to use his powers and to give the show some kind of mystery to it. My problem is that the show's use of kryptonite is extremely weird. It gets really ridiculous because I do like the fact that Clark doesn't know what kryptonite is really yet and just knows that it hurts him, especially the part where Lana had a necklace and he couldn't even approach Lana like in the first episode. He would like fall down, and that reminded me a lot of like Peter Parker. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed moments like that. That being said, the way that kryptonite interacts with some of the like other characters and they get powers based on it gets really, sometimes it gets a little bit too much for me. It gets really ridiculous. Like, there's an episode where like Elite, I think she somehow got in contact with kryptonite. She just controls bees. I'm just like, I don't think that's how kryptonite works. And I think there was an episode, like I said, there's like another episode that kind of deals with kryptonite and like involves this like coach. I remember his like athletic coach, and like he has an extremely huge temper, and the kryptonite allows this guy to like allow things to burst up in the flames and combust. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, this is like straightforward like X-Men stuff. And like I said, there's some good episodes. I forgot to mention this episode, but there's a good one where like this kid who got like telekinesis powers, and he kind of used it to like get revenge against a guy that he thought ran him over, and also like has a romance with Chloe. I really enjoyed that episode. There's also one with a guy who can turn people into stone and actually destroys himself because he's so guilty of what he did. I really enjoyed episodes like that. It works well with the premise, but I think some of that, like I said, some ways that these people get their powers don't really make too much sense and are kind of ridiculous. It just feels like I said, a plot device to get all these people powers and Superman has to fight them or Clark has to fight them, right? It just kind of feels like, I don't know. And I was expecting like a little bit more in terms of the drama and stuff in this TV series. I do think, too, like, some of the storylines that involved some of these guys who got changed by kryptonite could have lasted longer. Because some of the conclusions in this TV series are really too quick. Like, way too convenient, or just like, all right, they just wanted to wrap this up real quickly and not talk about it further. Like I said, it's kind of the CW format in a lot of ways. I do think some of the characters who got powers, I think you could have extended their storyline for like another maybe two or an additional episode, right? Make it like a 2 or 3 episode arc. And I think it would have really immensely benefited the show a lot. Instead of doing this like episode of the week kind of thing where they have to like have it like a beginning and they have to rush to an end. Like I said, a little bit underwhelming in that aspect. But, overall, despite some of my issues, I do think the use of kryptonite is extremely weird, especially since in most continuities, it's like not like a rock to most people, or it could just be like considered like radiation. The fact that it gives all these people powers, I think this was a bit silly. I think there could have been other ways the writers could have came up with, like maybe they could have just made up some alien rock from the meteors that came from Krypton. Maybe not kryptonite, but just like kryptonite can be found in the meteors, but it's just like a normal rock to people. Maybe like some goo or something that like comes from like the planet or these meteors, or who knows, from some weird alien destination, and interacts with all these people and then transforms them in more reasonable, logical ways. Instead of how it is in the show where it's like anything that like people can get near kryptonite can change them, which was a bit silly. One of my little big issues with this TV series so far. But that's really all I can say about cons that I can think of off the top of my head. Now to kind of give you my quick thoughts on the finale of this TV series, or the season 1, excuse me. The finale involves like tornadoes. They also, like I said, a little bit confirm Chloe and Clark getting together for a dance, which was nice to see. The tornado special effect was pretty cool, considering the budget. I mean, it's not like Twister or anything like that good, but it's fine for a TV show. It's one of the better CGI effects. It was an okay finale. I think it definitely was more high-packed and high-stake compared to anything that we saw earlier, because in most episodes, it was just like, okay, conflict would arise and then would quickly get resolved. I really like the finale because they left it on a cliffhanger, and that made it really cool because, like, okay, we can actually expand upon this in an episode. Oh my god, this is actually a big deal. So the finale wasn't too bad. I do feel like it was a little bit random with the tornadoes, because it's like, in the back of my head, I was like, is that kryptonite? Are they going to do the whole thing that the tornadoes were caused by kryptonite? Thank God they didn't. But overall, not a bad finale. And, yeah, just kind of give you my quick initial thoughts. Season 1's not too bad. It's definitely got some good episodes here and there. Some really good standouts. All the performances from the main cast are really good. And the show kind of exceeded my expectations of what a Smallville TV series about Superman/Clark could be about. It's not great. It's definitely got its weaker episodes, and some of its use of certain Superman-related things that we know in our main comic and main universe, right? Like kryptonite's usage in this TV show feel extremely weird. But overall, I feel like it's not a bad TV series. I think it's really solid, a really solid first season, and I'm excited to see where this series goes further. All right, y'all, so just kind of want to give you my quick initial thoughts on Season 1 to wrap up. All right, y'all, have a good day. Peace.